It's hard to explain what it feels like to wake up every day with a knot in your stomach, not from excitement or anticipation, but from the slow, steady pressure of money slipping through your fingers, faster than you can catch it. I'm 26, working a full-time job that, on paper, should be enough. But when rent, bills, groceries, and the small extras of life pile up, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up without warning, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get ahead. Some mornings I lie in bed just staring at the ceiling, thinking about the overdue credit card payments or the gas bill that just arrived. I keep telling myself to stay calm, to breathe, but it's like a constant drumbeat in my head. You don't have enough. You're behind. What if something else breaks? What if there's an emergency? It's exhausting, and the weight of it isn't just financial, it's deeply emotional, and sometimes, it's almost paralyzing. I grew up with the idea that if you worked hard enough, you could build a stable life. That's what my parents always said. But the reality feels different. I work a job that I sometimes enjoy, but the paycheck feels like a drop in an ocean of bills and rising prices. Rent alone takes up more than half my income now. Everything else, utilities, food, transportation, just keeps inching higher. I've watched the price of gas go up month after month, and my paycheck hasn't kept pace. I'm left making impossible choices. Do I fill my car's tank or pay my phone bill? Do I skip buying fresh vegetables to save a few dollars, even though I know it affects my health? It's like I'm trapped in a system where expenses rise faster than my income, and the gap keeps widening. I know it's not just me. I see it everywhere, in conversations with friends, in the news, in the way older neighbors complain about how unaffordable everything has become. But knowing that doesn't make it easier. It just reminds me that the struggle is real and widespread, yet somehow invisible to those who don't live it daily. Every decision feels weighed down by financial pressure. I remember a few years ago, I had dreams. Simple things, really. Traveling, maybe going back to school to finish a degree. Saving for a place of my own. Buying a reliable car so I wouldn't have to worry about breakdowns. I had plans, big and small, that made me excited about the future. But those dreams feel postponed, sometimes indefinitely shelved, because I have to focus on survival now. Some days, I try to find small ways to cope. I started cooking at home more, not because I love it, though I'm learning, but because eating out is a luxury I rarely afford anymore. I picked up freelance gigs here and there, working late into the night after my day job, just to scrape together a few extra dollars. I've become a master of coupons and sales, though the effort often feels thankless when the savings are just a drop in the bucket. It's a constant hustle, but it wears me down. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There are moments of shame, like when I have to ask family for help, or when I avoid social outings because I can't afford to join. Loneliness creeps in. I sometimes feel isolated, even in a crowd, because no one really understands how tight the margins are. The fear of falling deeper into debt is always there, lurking like a shadow. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about what happens if I lose this job or get sick. The safety net feels threadbare, and that's terrifying. But despite all this, I hold on to hope, fragile, maybe, but real. I dream of a day when I can breathe without worry, when I can save more than a few dollars here and there, when my work feels like it's building towards something, not just patching holes. I hope to finish school, even if it means taking baby steps, maybe online classes while juggling work. I hope to someday move into a place that feels like home, where I don't have to count every penny. It's not easy to talk about these things. There's a stigma around financial struggle, like it's a personal failure. But it's not. It's the reality of a world where costs spiral, but wages don't keep up. It's the story of many of us, trying to live, trying to make a life, trying to hold on to dreams that refuse to die, even when the system seems designed to hold us back. So here I am, telling my story, not for pity, but because I think it's time we talk about what this really means. To be young, trying to live, in a world where the numbers never seem to add up. Where every day is a balance between hope and survival. And where, despite it all, the small flicker of a dream still burns, quietly waiting for a chance to grow. That's my truth, messy and real. And maybe, if enough of us share it, things will start to change. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I remember when I first moved out on my own, fresh out of college, full of hope and energy. The world seemed like a place where I could build a life that felt mine, where my efforts would pay off, and dreams weren't just for the lucky few. But as the months rolled into years, I've come to understand a harsh truth: no matter how hard I work, the financial pressure feels like a tide pulling me under, dragging me into a cycle that I can't escape. Everyday life feels like a negotiation between what I earn and what I have to spend, a constant balancing act where the numbers never seem to add up. My job pays the bills, but it's never quite enough to cover everything. Rent, which keeps creeping higher every year, eats up nearly half my paycheck. Utilities and groceries don't wait for my paycheck to catch up, their prices just keep climbing. Then there are the surprise expenses, a medical bill here, a car repair there, like hidden monsters that show up when I least expect them. It's hard to explain the feeling of being trapped inside this system where costs grow faster than income. Imagine trying to fill a bucket with a slow leak at the bottom. No matter how much water you pour in, it drains away faster than you can fill it. That's what my financial situation feels like. The more I try to save, the more unavoidable expenses push me back down. I've had to make decisions that feel like losing, not winning. I skip social gatherings because I can't afford the cost of a night out. I cook the cheapest meals possible, even when I crave something fresh and nutritious. I cancel plans with friends because gas prices make the trip a luxury. There are nights I lie awake, worrying about whether my paycheck will stretch through the month or if I'll have to borrow from someone again. This constant strain isn't just financial, it eats at my emotional well-being. It's exhausting to live with a persistent anxiety about money. Sometimes it feels like I'm alone in this, like no one else is feeling the squeeze as tightly as I am. But I know that's not true, so many of my friends share the same story. We all carry this quiet burden, this invisible weight that doesn't show on our faces but affects every decision we make. My dreams have been put on hold, sometimes indefinitely. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city's limits. I wanted to go back to school and explore new career paths. I imagined having a little space of my own someday, maybe a small apartment or a modest house where I felt secure. But those dreams feel so far away now. Each month's paycheck just barely keeps me afloat, there's no extra left to invest in those hopes. How do I cope? I try to focus on the small victories. I find comfort in simple things, a good book, a walk outside, connecting with friends who understand. I journal, to release the tension that builds inside. And I try to remind myself that this situation, tough as it is, doesn't define me or my future. Still, some nights, when the stress becomes too much, I just sit in the quiet and wonder when, or if, this relentless pressure will ease. It's hard to stay hopeful when the system feels stacked against you. But I hold on to the idea that change is possible. I'm learning to be gentle with myself, to accept that survival is a form of strength. And maybe, one day, the weight of financial pressure will lighten enough to let me breathe and chase the dreams I've had to pause. Until then, I keep moving forward, even if it's one small, cautious step at a time. I never imagined I'd be here, 28 years old, juggling 2 part-time jobs, and still feeling like I'm sinking. It's a strange kind of exhaustion, one that's not just physical but mental and emotional. The kind that creeps in when you wake up wondering how to stretch the next paycheck, when you find yourself staring at bills and rent notices, realizing that no matter how hard you work, the numbers just don't add up anymore. I feel trapped in a system that's slowly squeezing the life out of me, and the worst part is knowing I'm not alone in this. Every morning begins with the same ritual of quiet dread. I get up early, before the sun even peeks over the horizon, and try to summon the energy to face the day. There's no time for breakfast most days because it feels like even that's a luxury I can't afford, not when every cent is already spoken for before I see it. I grab a cheap cup of coffee when I can, but sometimes I just drink water or nothing at all, hoping to push through the tiredness. My mind is already racing, calculating how I'll cover rent, utilities, groceries, phone bills, things that seem to rise every month, sometimes faster than my paycheck grows. The economy feels like this endless uphill battle. Inflation has become the enemy I see everywhere, at the grocery store where I have to choose between fresh vegetables and cheaper canned goods, at the gas pump where every fill-up chips away at my limited budget, in rent increases that make me question if I'll have a roof over my head next month. I watch prices climb like I'm standing at the base of a mountain, unable to climb fast enough to reach the summit. It's a slow suffocation. Because income barely budges. My wages stay stagnant, barely changing since I started these jobs years ago. I ask for raises, but they're dismissed, or I'm told the company just can't afford it. It's like running on a treadmill set to a slow pace but with a heavy backpack on. No matter how fast I move, the ground beneath me doesn't shift. Expenses spiral, and I'm stuck. Every decision I make is filtered through this relentless financial pressure. When friends invite me out, I hesitate because $10 here and $15 there adds up quickly. A night out turns into a stress-inducing calculation. Can I afford to eat out? Can I afford to miss a shift? Is it worth it to spend on something that isn't absolutely necessary? Even small things, a haircut, new clothes, a birthday gift, feel like luxuries I can't justify. It's isolating. I find myself cutting corners everywhere, stretching meals, turning off the heat when it gets cold, delaying doctor visits, skipping social events. It wears me down. The emotional toll is heavy. Some nights, I lie awake, heart pounding, thoughts swirling. What if an emergency happens? What if I lose one of my jobs? What if this cycle never ends? The stress becomes a constant companion, gnawing at my confidence and hope. To cope, I hold on to routines and little moments of control. I meticulously track my spending, creating budgets that barely allow for breathing room. I try to find freelance gigs or odd jobs on the side, but it just adds more hours to my already long days. I lean on friends when I can, though I don't want to burden them with my struggles. I write in a journal sometimes. It helps to get the chaos out of my head, to remind myself I'm more than my financial situation. But dreams? Those feel so far away now. I used to imagine traveling, studying abroad, maybe even going back to school full-time to pursue a career that didn't involve scraping by. I pictured a small apartment I could call mine, where I could decorate without worrying about the price tag on every piece of furniture. I dreamed of saving for a future where money wasn't the constant source of fear. Those dreams have been put on indefinite hold, folded away into the back of my mind where I hope they'll wait patiently. I've learned to survive, to live day by day, but it feels like I'm treading water in a storm. I worry about what this means for my future, whether I'll ever have the chance to breathe freely, to plan without anxiety. Sometimes it's hard to imagine that life could be different. Yet, beneath it all, I hold on to a fragile hope. I hope that this economic tide will turn. That wages will rise with the cost of living. That opportunities for people like me, young, working, struggling, will open up. I hope that someday, I'll be able to look back at this time and see it as a chapter one survived, not the whole story. For now, I'm here. I'm still trying. Each day, I wrestle with exhaustion and fear, but also with the determination not to give up. Because even in the tight grip of financial pressure, the human spirit clings to hope, even when it's hard to see. And maybe that's enough to keep going. I wake up every morning to the same nagging thought: how am I going to make ends meet this month? It's a question that's become a kind of unwelcome ritual, like brushing my teeth or checking my phone, but instead of feeling routine or normal, it weighs heavily on me, settling like a stone in my chest before my feet even hit the floor. I'm 27 years old. Not exactly ancient, but old enough to feel the pressure of all the adult things I'm supposed to have figured out by now. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, insurance, phone bills, the list seems endless, and every month, the numbers creep higher. Meanwhile, my paycheck stays stubbornly the same. I'm stuck in this cycle where the cost of living outpaces my income, and the gap keeps widening no matter how hard I hustle. It's hard to describe the feeling of being trapped in a system like this. It's not just about money, though that's the obvious part, it's about the way it makes me question my own worth and my future. Every expense feels like a battle. I've had to become an expert at cutting corners, switching to the cheapest grocery brands, skipping social events, putting off doctor appointments because I'll get by, and endlessly negotiating with myself about whether I can justify spending $5 on a coffee. It sounds trivial, but when that $5 could mean an extra bag of rice or a few more days of gas in the tank, it feels huge. The pressure is constant and exhausting. There's no break, no light at the end of the tunnel. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up just as you find your rhythm. I remind myself that others have it worse, and I try not to complain because there's this lingering shame about not being able to make it work like so many people expect. But that shame is a heavy, silent companion, and it gnaws at me every time I open a bill or check my bank balance. Some days, the anxiety creeps in slowly, like a quiet fog settling over my mind. Other days, it hits me like a punch, an unexpected car repair, a sudden medical expense, or a rent increase that leaves me scrambling. Those moments make me feel utterly powerless. It's hard not to spiral into a dark place, questioning if all the hard work and sacrifices are worth it. I wonder if this is as good as life gets, always struggling, always chasing a moving target. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I used to imagine traveling, going back to school for a master's degree, maybe even buying a place of my own someday. Those dreams now feel distant, almost like they belong to a different person, someone who doesn't have to live paycheck to paycheck or choose between paying the electric bill or buying groceries. I put off investing in myself because the immediate needs always take priority. It's a slow erosion of hope, but I try to hold on to it anyway. Coping is a daily challenge. Some nights, I lie awake going over numbers in my head, making mental lists of what I can cut or delay next month. I distract myself with small pleasures, watching a favorite show, calling a friend, or going for a walk, but the financial stress never fully leaves me. I found solace in writing, pouring these feelings onto the page so they don't stay bottled up. Sometimes I think about therapy, but even that feels like a luxury I can't afford. The pandemic made everything worse. Job insecurity, rising prices, the general uncertainty, it was like the ground shifted beneath me. I lost a few opportunities, and since then, the little safety net I had has been threadbare. I know the economy is complicated and that I'm just one person in a huge system, but that doesn't make the loneliness of this struggle any easier to bear. Still, I try to remind myself that I'm more than my bank balance. I have resilience, creativity, and people who care about me. I look for small victories, a month without late fees, a job lead, a kind word from a colleague, and hold on to those moments tightly. They remind me that I'm not just surviving, I'm still fighting for a better future. I don't know when or how things will change. Sometimes I imagine a time when I can breathe without this constant pressure, when my dreams aren't so far out of reach. Until then, I keep moving forward, even if it's just one cautious step at a time. This is my story, not just of struggle, but of hope, however fragile it might feel. Because if I give up hope, what else is there? I never thought I'd be here, writing down these thoughts, feeling so stuck, so squeezed by life that every small decision feels like a battle. But here I am, trying to make sense of the daily grind that's been wearing me down, the invisible chains of financial pressure tightening around me more every day. I'm in my mid-20s. Not a kid anymore, but not fully settled either. I work a decent job, at least, that's what I tell myself, yet it barely covers the bills. The rent, the groceries, the utilities, the phone bill, the gas, the insurance, the list never ends. It's like swimming upstream against a current that keeps getting faster. The prices climb, but my paycheck stays almost the same. Sometimes I joke with friends that my money evaporates before I even get it, but deep down, it's no joke. It's a slow, relentless pressure that makes me feel invisible, powerless. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house, full of hope and ambition. I had dreams, big ones. Travel, maybe start my own business someday, go back to school, buy a car, have a decent savings account. But reality hit me hard. The cost of living is a beast, and it never sleeps. Every time I think I'm getting ahead, a new expense jumps out at me. The fridge dies, the car needs an oil change, a surprise doctor's bill. Emergencies that feel like financial earthquakes. And there's no safety net because I can't save, I'm always living paycheck to paycheck. This constant scramble is exhausting. It's like I'm running on a treadmill set at a speed I can't control. I want to stop and catch my breath, but I can't because if I do, I'll fall behind on rent or the electricity bill, and then the anxiety just eats at me even more. It's the kind of pressure that seeps into everything, my relationships, my sleep, my confidence. I catch myself withdrawing from friends because I can't afford social outings, or I'm embarrassed to admit I'm struggling. I try to keep up a brave face, but inside, there's this gnawing fear that I'm failing at adulthood. Sometimes I wonder how people manage to save for a home, start a family, or even just enjoy life without constant financial stress. I see stories online of friends buying apartments, traveling the world, or investing in their passions, and it feels like they're living in another universe. Meanwhile, I'm stuck here, patching together budget meals, counting every cent, and praying my paycheck stretches just a bit further. The emotional toll is brutal. On bad days, I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, heart racing because I'm worried about what next month looks like. What if I get sick? What if my hours get cut? What if the rent goes up again? It's a never-ending loop of what-ifs that makes me feel helpless and alone. But I'm not ready to give up. Somehow, I keep going. I cope in small ways, cutting out non-essentials, learning to cook cheap meals, picking up odd gigs when I can, and trying to stay hopeful. I remind myself that this is temporary, that I'm working towards something better. Still, it's hard to hold on to that hope when everything around me screams otherwise. I've had to postpone so many dreams. The solo trip I promised myself after graduation? On hold indefinitely. The art classes I wanted to take to explore my creative side? Maybe someday. Even simple things, like buying new clothes or a decent mattress, feel like luxuries. Sometimes it hurts to admit how much I've had to sacrifice just to survive. What scares me the most is the idea of this becoming permanent, of settling into a life where financial pressure is just the background noise, the unchanging reality. I want more than that. I want stability, freedom, peace of mind. I want to wake up without dread, to feel like I'm building something instead of just treading water. Sharing this isn't easy. There's a stigma around struggling financially, especially for someone my age. People expect us to have it figured out, to be adulting smoothly. But the truth is, so many of us are barely keeping our heads above water, trying to navigate a system that's set up to keep us running faster without getting anywhere. If I could say one thing to others who feel like me, it would be this: you're not alone. This struggle is real and valid. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. And it's okay to hope for better. We might be trapped in this moment, but our dreams don't have to die here. For now, I'll keep pushing forward, one day at a time, trying to hold on to that fragile hope that someday, the weight will lift. Until then, I'll keep telling my story, because maybe, just maybe, that's how I'll find my way out. A young adult caught in the squeeze of today's economy. It's hard to put into words what it's like living like this, like you're always one step behind, no matter how fast you run. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, and still struggling to keep my head above water. Every month, the bills pile up, the rent climbs, the prices at the grocery store creep higher, but my paycheck barely changes. The more I try to keep up, the more the system feels like it's designed to push me down, not lift me up. Some days, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest, the kind that settles deep in your bones before your feet even hit the floor. I think about the month ahead, the rent that's due in 2 weeks, the gas I'll need for my car to get back and forth to work, the electricity bill that got higher than last time. The little things, a haircut, a night out, buying a birthday gift, feel like luxuries I can't afford anymore. I spend a lot of time calculating what I can skip without completely losing myself. That calculation never ends. I'm caught in this trap where expenses grow faster than income. It feels like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in it. No matter how much I pour in, it never stays full. When inflation hit, it wasn't just a headline, it was my reality. Groceries that used to cost $50 now cost $75. Rent increases happen every year, but my raises are rare and small. I've asked for more hours, a raise, a promotion, all politely dismissed. There's always some excuse: company budget, market standards, we're all in this together. But for me, it's very much alone. Everyday decisions are weighed down by financial pressure. Do I take the bus and save money, even though it makes my commute twice as long? Do I buy the cheaper, less nutritious food, knowing it'll save me a few dollars but might make me feel sluggish? Do I say no to a friend's invitation because I can't risk spending that money? Social isolation sneaks in because money limits more than what you buy. It limits your connections, your experiences, your joy. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I carry this constant low-level stress that sometimes swells into full-blown anxiety. Nights are hardest. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'll have enough to cover emergencies, a car repair, a health issue, or even a surprise expense I can't plan for. I feel guilt, too. Guilt that I can't provide more for my family, guilt that I can't give my partner the things I want to, guilt that I sometimes can't even afford basic self-care. Depression and frustration bubble up, but I hide it well because I don't want others to worry. To cope, I try to find small moments of control. Budgeting obsessively, cutting costs wherever I can, searching for side gigs, and sometimes just reminding myself that this isn't permanent, even if it feels like it will be. I've learned to appreciate small joys: a walk in the park, a good book from the library, catching up with friends over a homemade meal. These are lifelines, but they can't replace the stability and freedom I crave. I've had to postpone dreams. Going back to school feels impossible with my current workload and finances. Moving to a better neighborhood, owning a home, traveling, saving for retirement, these are fantasies that feel out of reach. I worry that by the time I can afford any of those things, I'll be so worn down that I don't have the energy left to enjoy them. Sometimes I fear this cycle will never break, and that breaks something inside me. But I hold on to hope, fragile, quiet hope. Hope that the economy shifts, that wages catch up with costs, that policies change to support people like me. Hope that my hard work eventually leads somewhere better, that I'll be able to breathe a little easier, and that postponed dreams aren't lost forever, just delayed. I keep reminding myself that surviving this struggle is also a kind of strength. This is my story, one of many, I know, but it's real. It's about the invisible weight millions carry every day, trying to build a life in a world where the rules seem rigged against them. And yet, despite it all, here I am, still standing, still hoping, still trying. It's 10 p.m., and I'm sitting at the small kitchen table in my apartment, the only light coming from the cheap LED bulb overhead. I'm staring at my phone, scrolling through the banking app for what feels like the 100th time today. My balance hasn't changed much, still hovering just above the point where I start to panic. Rent is due in less than a week, and the grocery store visits keep getting shorter and less satisfying. This is the life I didn't imagine for myself when I was younger, dreaming about freedom and possibility. I'm 26 now. I graduated college with hopes of building a career, maybe traveling a bit, and one day buying a place that felt like home, not just a temporary stop. But the economy, the cost of living, and the relentless rise of expenses have pulled me into a cycle that feels impossible to break free from. Every paycheck that lands in my account feels like a small victory, but by the time I cover rent, utilities, transportation, and food, there's barely anything left. And yet, the bills keep coming. Phone, internet, insurance, the hidden costs that grow faster than my salary ever could. I see prices going up in every store window, on every receipt. It's exhausting, and it's crushing. The hardest part isn't just the numbers on a screen, it's the feeling of being trapped. Like no matter how hard I work, no matter how many hours I put in or how many side gigs I pick up, the finish line keeps moving further away. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up just as I'm trying to catch my breath. I want to breathe. I want to live, but survival takes up all my energy. I remember when I first moved out on my own, full of optimism and energy. I had this idea that if I budgeted carefully and made smart choices, I could manage. And I did, for a while. But then the rent jumped unexpectedly, groceries became more expensive, and small emergencies started to pile up: a broken phone screen, a car repair, medical co-pays. Each one was a setback, and I had to borrow from the credit card. The interest is a quiet predator, always there, growing my debt even when I'm paying it down. I'm caught in a web, and every time I think I'm free, the threads tighten. Friends invite me out, but I say no more often than I want to. There's a guilt in declining, but there's also fear of spending money I don't have. The nights I do go out, I'm anxious about the cost the whole time, which makes it hard to enjoy the moment. Socializing feels like a luxury I can't afford, and that loneliness seeps into everything else. I tell myself that one day, things will change. That I'm just building a foundation, that sacrifices now will mean something later. But what if later never comes? What if this system, this economic environment, is designed for people like me to just tread water? It's a question I don't like to dwell on, but it's there, lurking in the background of every decision. I think about the dreams I've had to put on hold: saving for a car, taking a trip abroad, even something as simple as buying new clothes without guilt. The idea of luxury now feels absurdly out of reach, and even comfort seems like a distant memory. Some days, the weight is almost unbearable. I lie awake at night wondering how I'll make it through the next month, the next paycheck, the next unexpected bill. There's a gnawing anxiety that lives in my chest, a quiet panic that no one really sees. I mask it with a forced smile, a joke, or just saying I'm fine when I'm not. I've learned to cope by breaking everything down into tiny steps: focus on today, not the whole mountain of stress. Find small moments of joy, like a good cup of coffee or a walk in the park. But even those moments feel fragile, like they could shatter if I stop paying attention. I'm lucky, I guess, to have a job at all. Many people are worse off, and I try to remind myself of that when the frustration bubbles up. But that doesn't make it easier. I want to believe that hard work will pay off eventually, that persistence matters. But sometimes it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels, stuck in a system where wages are stagnant but everything else skyrockets. The gap between income and expenses feels like a growing canyon I can't cross. At times, I imagine a different life, one where I wake up without the crushing worry about money. Where I can afford to eat healthy food, see a doctor without fear, and maybe save a little each month. Where I don't have to sacrifice my dreams for survival. I wonder if that life is possible or if it's just a fantasy sold to us by advertisements and promises of upward mobility. I want to believe in it, but it's hard when every day feels like a reminder of how far away it is. I try to hold on to hope by thinking about the future, maybe switching careers, going back to school if I can afford it, or starting something on my own. But even those thoughts come with a catch: the financial risk. It's a gamble I'm not sure I can take when the present is already so unstable. And so I keep pushing forward in the only way I know: working, cutting costs, stretching every dollar, and trying to stay sane. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to admit that this is hard, because it really is. But don't give up. Even in the smallest moments, hold on to your dreams, no matter how far away they seem. Because the system may be rigged, but your spirit isn't broken. I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping for a day when the numbers add up not just on paper, but in my life. For now, I'll close my banking app, turn off the kitchen light, and try to get some rest. Tomorrow is another day to face the same pressures, but also maybe, just maybe, a step closer to something better. This is my story. I never thought I'd find myself constantly counting pennies, scanning my bank app like it's some kind of lifeline, or wrestling with the gnawing anxiety that tightens my chest every time a bill arrives. But here I am, a young adult barely out of college, living in a world where the cost of living climbs relentlessly, while my paycheck stubbornly refuses to keep pace. I remember the early days after graduation, that sweet, naive optimism when I believed that working hard, paying my dues, and making smart choices would get me somewhere. Somewhere stable, somewhere comfortable. But that hope has slowly chipped away at me, like water carving stone. I'm stuck in this exhausting tug-of-war, trying to keep my head above water while the current drags me further downstream. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, it all adds up faster than I can track. Every month, my paycheck lands, and I dutifully allocate funds for essentials, then try to squeeze out the bare minimum for extras like a coffee with friends or a night out. Most times, though, extras are luxuries I can't afford. I catch myself declining invitations, making excuses, and retreating into a quieter, lonelier existence just to save money. The cost of socializing, not just the money but the emotional energy, feels like a luxury I don't have. The system feels like it's built against people like me. Prices rise, rent inflates, groceries get pricier, and yet wages seem stuck in slow motion. I see the numbers on paper every month, rent up by 7%, utility bills creeping higher, gas prices making every trip a little more painful to justify. Meanwhile, my income barely nudges upward. I'm trapped in this widening gap, an invisible noose tightening as expenses climb faster than I can earn. Some days, it feels like no matter how hard I work, I'm just spinning my wheels. Like I'm caught on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, no matter how fast I run. The crushing weight of financial pressure isn't just about dollars and cents, it seeps into my emotional well-being. I wake up some mornings feeling exhausted before the day begins, anxious about how I'll pay for an unexpected expense or worried that if I slack even a little, I'll fall behind on rent. It's lonely too, this pressure isolates you. I don't always have the energy to talk about it. When friends boast about weekend trips, new gadgets, or fancy dinners, I smile but feel like I'm living on a different planet. The social comparisons aren't just envy, they're painful reminders of what feels out of reach. I cope in little ways. I've become a master of budgeting apps, coupon clipping, and meal prepping. I spend hours researching cheaper alternatives, sales, and side gigs. I cut out anything that isn't essential, sometimes skipping meals just to save. I avoid taking public transit during off-peak times to save on fares, and I've learned to find small joys in free or low-cost activities, walks in the park, reading borrowed books, streaming old movies. These things keep me afloat emotionally, even when the world feels harsh and unforgiving. But the dreams I once held close, buying my own place, traveling, building a stable future, have been pushed to the back burner indefinitely. I used to imagine myself settling into a cozy apartment filled with light and plants, hosting friends for dinners and celebrations. Now I'm lucky if I can cover rent and utilities without dipping into savings. Vacations? That feels like a fantasy, a reward for a life I don't yet have. Sometimes, I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this cycle will ever break. Will I ever get a raise that matches inflation? Will the job market improve enough for me to find something better paying? Or am I just a cog in a system designed to keep people like me scraping by, just one crisis away from disaster? Despite it all, I hold on to hope. Hope that the economy will stabilize, that wages will catch up, that policies will change to support people struggling like me. Hope that I'll find new opportunities to grow, to advance, to breathe easier. I remind myself that this chapter doesn't define my whole life, that resilience means surviving the hard times, and that someday I might look back on these struggles and see how they shaped me. But today, right now, I'm still in it, juggling bills, pushing down the stress, and trying to find moments of peace amidst the noise. I want to be honest about that because so many of us are living this reality silently. The financial pressure isn't just a number on a spreadsheet, it's the weight on our shoulders, the shadow over our dreams, and sometimes, the quiet ache in our hearts. If you ask me how I'm doing, I'll say I'm managing, but managing doesn't mean thriving. It means holding on, day by day, inch by inch, hoping for a break, a change, a better tomorrow. And that hope is enough to keep me moving forward, even when the system feels like it's built to hold me back. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. It's been a long week, no, a long month, a long year, really. Sometimes I lose track of time because every day feels the same, waking up with this heavy weight of worry pressing down on me before I even open my eyes. Financial pressure, it's like a shadow that follows me everywhere, quietly tightening its grip bit by bit, day after day. I'm 27, working full-time, but it never feels like enough. Every paycheck that comes in disappears faster than I expect. Rent, utilities, groceries, gas, insurance, phone bills, there's no shortage of things demanding money. What's worse is that the costs keep creeping up, faster than any raise I might get, faster than the hours I can squeeze out of overtime. It's exhausting. Like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how hard I push, I'm stuck in the same place. I still remember a time when I thought I could build something, save a little, maybe travel, or even just enjoy a night out without anxiety gnawing at my gut. Now, those dreams feel like luxury items I can't afford. I've put off going to the dentist for months because I can't justify the cost. I skip meals sometimes, not because I'm starving, but because I know that last $10 can stretch better if I'm careful. I tell myself it's temporary, but the months pile up and the future feels farther away, hazier. The economic environment isn't helping. Inflation is a constant headline, but it's not just a number in the news. It's my reality every time I walk into a grocery store and the prices are higher than last week. It's the reason I had to downgrade my phone plan, cut out my gym membership, and stop taking the bus to work because the fares increased. These aren't just minor annoyances, they're decisions that chip away at my quality of life. And there's this overwhelming feeling of being trapped. It's like I'm caught in a system where expenses balloon but incomes don't keep pace. I try to budget, I track every dollar, I cancel unnecessary subscriptions, but the basics still take the biggest chunk. I wonder if I'll ever get ahead or if I'm destined to just survive paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes it feels like the world expects me to just hustle harder, but no matter how hard I hustle, the goalposts keep moving further away. Emotionally, this pressure is brutal. Some days I feel numb, just going through the motions to avoid thinking about how tight everything is. Other days, it hits me like a wave of panic or shame. Shame that I can't seem to make it work, shame that I have to say no to friends or skip social events because I can't afford to join. It isolates me, and loneliness creeps in, making everything feel heavier. I want to be honest about it, but there's a stigma around money struggles, like I'm supposed to have it together by now. So, I keep it inside, letting the anxiety build until it's almost unbearable. I cope in small ways. I find comfort in the little things that don't cost much: morning coffee at home instead of the cafe, long walks in the park, cooking meals from scratch. Sometimes I journal or talk to close friends, but mostly I just try to hold on, reminding myself that this isn't permanent. That someday, things could be different. That there's hope beyond these crushing bills and rising prices. I dream about that future a lot. I dream about a day when I'm not constantly stressed about money, when I can save for something bigger, a home, maybe, or at least a vacation that isn't just a fantasy. I want to feel secure, to breathe without the tightness in my chest. I want to rebuild my dreams, not just put them on hold. But for now, those dreams feel paused indefinitely, waiting for a time when the economy stabilizes, when my income catches up, when the weight on my shoulders lifts. Until then, I keep moving forward, trying to find small pockets of joy amidst the struggle. It's not easy. It's raw and honest and sometimes downright scary. But sharing this story, even if only with myself here, reminds me I'm not invisible in this fight. That maybe, in some small way, my voice matters. So here I am, worn out but not broken, anxious but hopeful, trapped but still dreaming. I wake up every morning with this knot in my stomach, a mix of dread and exhaustion that never quite goes away. It's not just the usual stress everyone talks about, like deadlines or relationships. No, this feeling is deeper, heavier. It's the constant weight of money slipping through my fingers, faster than I can catch it. Like I'm stuck on a treadmill that's speeding up every day, and no matter how hard I run, I'm just not getting anywhere. I'm 27 now. Not old, but old enough to have figured out that adulthood is nothing like the pictures people paint in movies or on social media. I always thought I'd have some freedom by now, maybe travel a bit, save a little, start investing in a future. But the reality is this: rent keeps going up, groceries cost more, bills pile higher, and my paycheck barely stretches. The economic environment feels like an invisible force pushing me down, like the whole system is designed to keep me, and people like me, just barely afloat. Every day, my decisions revolve around money. It's exhausting. Do I skip buying coffee today? Can I afford that extra few dollars for public transport, or should I walk 40 minutes and risk being late? Should I try to eat more cheaply and sacrifice nutrition? Should I say no to friends who invite me out because I know I can't cover even the smallest cost? It's these tiny, constant choices that chip away at my peace of mind. I remember last week standing in front of the grocery store shelves, holding a can of beans in each hand, calculating in my head which is the cheaper option and which will stretch me further. It sounds trivial, but it's not. It's the moment when you realize you're negotiating your basic needs like some kind of reluctant chess player in a game you never wanted to join. Bills are the worst. They come like clockwork, sometimes more aggressive than I'm ready for. Electricity, internet, phone, rent, student loans, each one demanding a piece of my paycheck before I can even think about anything else. And if one bill falls behind? The penalties start, and suddenly I'm buried under a mountain of late fees and calls from collections agencies that only add to the anxiety. Some days, I feel ashamed. Like I'm failing at being an adult because I can't make it the way I imagined I would. I scroll through Instagram, see friends traveling to exotic places, buying new clothes, starting businesses, and it hits me, those dreams feel like they belong to someone else, someone far away from my reality. I've had to postpone so many plans: grad school, buying a car, saving for a down payment on a place. The list is long, and the hope that I'll catch up someday grows faint. The hardest part is the emotional toll. It's not just about the money, it's about what money represents. Security. Stability. Freedom. When you don't have those things, every little crisis feels like a tidal wave. One unexpected expense, a medical bill, a broken phone, a flat tire, can derail everything I've managed to hold together. It's a constant fear of falling, of not knowing how I'll pick myself up again. Sometimes I lie awake at night, heart racing, thinking about what it all means. Am I stuck in this loop forever? Is this what my 30s will look like? The idea of being trapped in a system where expenses always grow faster than income is suffocating. It feels like running a race with weights tied to my ankles, knowing that no matter how hard I push, I'm moving backward. Yet, I try to cope. I find little pockets of joy wherever I can. I keep a journal, where I write honestly about how I feel. It helps unburden my mind. I connect with a few close friends who understand and don't judge. Sometimes, I treat myself to a small luxury, a cheap meal from a food truck or a second-hand book, just to remind myself that I deserve moments of happiness. I also try to keep my dreams alive, even if they seem distant. I want to believe that someday, I'll break free from this pressure. I want to own a home, to travel, to feel that sense of security I've never known. I imagine waking up without that knot in my stomach, breathing freely, and making choices that aren't dictated by money. It's hard to stay hopeful when the system feels so stacked against you, but I'm holding on to that hope. Because if I didn't, what would be left? I'm just one person, but I'm trying to survive, to push forward, and to build a life where financial pressure isn't the main story. This is my reality, messy and hard and real. And while it's easy to feel alone, I know there are many others like me, caught in the same cycle, trying to find light in a world that often feels dark and unfair. I never thought I'd feel this way at 27, like I'm trapped in a cage, the bars made of bills and prices I can't keep up with. It's strange, really. When I was younger, I thought growing up meant freedom. freedom to choose, to live the life I wanted. But now, every choice feels like a calculation, every step forward just a desperate balancing act. The truth is, my paycheck never seems to stretch as far as it should. Rent goes up. Groceries get more expensive. Utilities climb. And somehow, despite working full-time, I still feel like I'm drowning in expenses. The cost of living rises faster than my income does, and I'm stuck running just to stay in place. Most days, I wake up with this pit in my stomach, the kind that gnaws at you before your feet even hit the floor. It's anxiety, pure and simple. I check my bank account, hoping for a little wiggle room. It's never there. I pay my rent first, no questions asked, because if that doesn't go out on time, everything else collapses. But then what? The electric bill? The car? Gas for the car? Food? Phone? All the little things that add up to survival. I catch myself cutting corners on essentials, buying cheaper groceries that don't fill me up, skipping meals when money's tight, or postponing doctor visits because insurance deductibles are too high. I've stopped seeing the dentist, something I always used to pride myself on. It feels reckless, but what choice do I have? When every dollar is already accounted for, self-care becomes a luxury I can't afford. Social life? Forget about it. I can't tell you the last time I went out with friends without calculating how much it would cost and feeling a knot in my stomach about spending money. It's isolating. People don't always understand why I say no to invitations or cancel plans last minute. The truth is, I don't want to be another unpaid bill. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just bad with money, but then I remind myself, I'm working. I'm careful. I budget. I've cut out all the extras, the subscriptions, the new clothes, the weekend getaways. But somehow, the basic things keep getting more expensive, and the paycheck doesn't keep pace. There's this constant pressure, a weight on my chest that never fully lifts. I'm exhausted, emotionally and physically. The stress sneaks into everything, my sleep, my mood, my relationships. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if this is just my life now, one long, unending struggle to cover the basics. It feels unfair, like I'm being punished for things outside my control. But despite all that, I keep going. I've learned to cope in small ways. I make playlists of calming music to drown out the noise in my head. I try to remind myself that this isn't forever. Sometimes I find comfort in tiny victories, like making it through the month without overdrawing my account or catching a small sale on groceries. It's not much, but it's something. I also try to be honest with the people close to me about how I'm feeling. Vulnerability is scary, but pretending I'm okay just makes it worse. Talking helps, even if it doesn't change the money situation. And I find myself dreaming more quietly now, in fragments, a small apartment without a leaky faucet, a vacation that doesn't require endless saving, a job that pays enough to not have to count every cent. Those dreams feel so far away, but they're still there, flickering in the dark. I know I might have to put some of them on hold for years. Maybe a house, a family, traveling the world, those all seem like distant luxuries. But I keep them alive because they remind me there's more to life than just surviving. I don't have all the answers, and some days I feel completely lost. But sharing this story, admitting this vulnerability, is my way of fighting back. I'm not just a statistic or a paycheck. I'm a person trying to find peace in a world that often feels like it's working against me. And maybe that's enough, at least for now. I never thought I'd end up feeling like this, stuck, overwhelmed, and constantly scrambling just to keep my head barely above water. But here I am, a few years into adulthood, grappling with financial pressure that never seems to ease up, no matter how hard I work or how tightly I hold on to every penny. It's this weird, persistent weight on my chest. Every morning, I wake up and immediately feel it pressing down. The rent's due in 2 weeks, my phone bill just jumped again, and groceries, well, groceries seem to cost more every single time I shop. The world around me feels like it's moving forward, faster and faster, but my paycheck keeps inching along like it's stuck in slow motion. Expenses rise, and my income barely budges. The gap between what I make and what I owe widens like some kind of invisible chasm I'm desperately trying not to fall into. I remember when I was younger, I had dreams. Real ones. I wanted to travel, to maybe start my own business someday, to take classes that interested me, to move out of this tiny apartment and into a place where I didn't hear my neighbors argue through the thin walls. But those dreams have been put on hold, indefinitely, because right now, it feels like survival is the only option. Every decision I make is tinged with this exhausting calculus: can I afford this? Will I regret spending money on this later? If I skip this bill, how long before the consequences catch up with me? I cut corners wherever I can. I've learned to stretch a loaf of bread, to cook meals from the cheapest ingredients, to wear the same clothes until they literally fall apart. Even then, some months, I still find myself short. I've gotten good at making my story sound hopeful when I call to postpone payments, but inside I'm silently panicking. The system feels rigged, like I'm on a treadmill that's speeding up, but my legs just can't keep pace. Prices for everything go up: rent, gas, utilities, even the basic things like toothpaste and toilet paper. Meanwhile, my paycheck remains stubbornly the same, or sometimes, it's even less if I get fewer hours at work. The gap widens, and I feel smaller, like I'm shrinking under the weight of bills, debts, and missed opportunities. I want to scream sometimes. Not because I'm angry at anyone in particular, but because I'm tired. Tired of living paycheck to paycheck, tired of juggling so many bills that it feels like I'm playing a cruel game of Jenga. One wrong move and everything collapses. Tired of the constant anxiety, the endless planning and replanning, the gnawing fear that if I get sick or lose my job, I'll be completely undone. But I try to keep going. I cling to the little moments of relief: a coffee with a friend, a walk in the park, a movie night at home. I remind myself that I'm doing what I can, even if it's not enough. I've learned to accept help when it's offered, though that comes with its own complicated feelings of pride and shame. Financial pressure also shapes how I see myself. I feel like I'm failing in ways that aren't always visible to others. It's not just the money, it's the way this constant stress chips away at my confidence and self-worth. I compare myself to people my age who seem to have it all figured out, the ones who own cars, who travel, who don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. It's hard not to feel invisible in my own life. But despite all this, I haven't given up hope completely. Deep down, I still dream. I dream of a day when money isn't this tight knot in my stomach, when I can afford a night out without guilt, when I can save enough to move somewhere that feels safe and welcoming. I want to believe that all these struggles are temporary, even if right now, the future feels like a fogged-up window I'm straining to see through. I remind myself that I'm more than my bank balance. I am someone who keeps trying, who gets up every day despite the weight of financial pressure, who cares deeply and wants more from life. Maybe someday, the tide will turn. Maybe someday, I'll look back and see this as a season of resilience, not defeat. For now, I keep going. One day, one paycheck, one small step at a time. It's hard to put into words exactly what it feels like to live with this kind of pressure every single day, the kind that presses down on your chest before you even open your eyes in the morning. I'm 26, and honestly, I feel like I'm already drowning in a sea I never signed up to be in. The numbers never seem to add up, and the weight of it all stretches far beyond just dollars and cents. It's the way the world is set up right now, and I'm caught in the middle, trying to keep my head above water. I work full-time at a retail job that pays just enough to cover rent and basic bills. My paycheck barely stretches far enough before the next month arrives, and the cycle starts again. Inflation's been a constant background hum in every conversation: groceries, rent, utilities, even transportation, all rising faster than my paycheck can keep pace. Every week I have to make choices that chip away at my sense of security and self-worth. Do I buy fresh vegetables or cheaper processed food? Should I skip the doctor's appointment because copays feel like luxuries? Can I afford to fix my phone this month or rely on the cracked screen and glitchy apps? There's this relentless feeling of being trapped in a system designed so that expenses grow faster than income, and no matter how hard I try, I can't escape the slow, grinding squeeze. The bills pile up, and the emergencies that seem to catch me off guard, like a car breakdown or a surprise medical expense, throw me into weeks of panic and juggling. I've learned to expect the unexpected, but it's exhausting. Every time I think I've caught up, life pulls the rug out from under me again. The emotional toll is harder to articulate than the numbers themselves. On the surface, I try to stay optimistic, keep smiling at work, and maintain friendships. But inside, there's a constant low-level anxiety that sometimes flares into despair. I lie awake at night thinking about whether I'll be able to make rent next month or if I'll have to move back home, something I swore I'd never do again. The dreams I had when I was younger feel more like distant stars now, flickering in a sky that's growing darker. I remember back in college, I wanted to be a graphic designer. I loved art and creativity, and I imagined someday working in a studio, surrounded by colors and ideas. But the reality of paying off student loans and covering my living expenses pushed me toward a job that guaranteed a paycheck, even if it's far from what I'm passionate about. I had to put those dreams on hold, maybe indefinitely, because survival comes first. Every side hustle I try seems to demand more time and energy than I have, and I often question if it's worth it when it just leads to burnout. Coping with this situation is an ongoing process. Sometimes I escape into books or music, losing myself in stories and sounds that take me somewhere else, even if just for a little while. Other times, I find comfort in the few close friends who understand what this feels like, who don't judge when I say no to plans because I can't afford it. There's also a quiet resilience I didn't expect to find in myself, the stubborn hope that things might get better, even when everything in me says otherwise. What keeps me going is the thought that maybe one day, I'll be able to breathe without counting every penny. I dream of a home I can call my own, a stable job that lets me grow, and the freedom to say yes to opportunities without fear of financial ruin. But for now, I live with the reality that those dreams are on hold, waiting for a future that feels both uncertain and distant. Being young and financially strapped isn't just about the money. It's about the endless juggling act, the emotional drain, the quiet compromises, and the fear that this might be as good as it gets. I'm not sure when, or if, that will change. But for now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, hoping that someday the pressure will ease, and I'll find space to breathe, dream, and live fully again. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm drowning, but no one can see me struggling beneath the surface. It's a quiet kind of suffocation, where each breath is heavier than the last, and the walls close in a little more every month. I'm 26 now, juggling a job that pays just enough to cover the basics, but somehow never quite enough to catch a break. The rent's gone up again, groceries are pricier than ever, and every little unexpected expense feels like a brick added to a growing weight on my chest. Some mornings, I wake up already exhausted, even though my body's been resting. The first thought that hits me is the same as it's been for years: how am I going to make this work today? I check my bank account on my phone while still lying in bed, my heart sinking a little when I see the numbers. The paycheck from last week is almost gone. Bills are due. The electric company's about to cut me off if I don't pay soon. I try not to think about the dentist appointment I canceled because it just wasn't in the budget this month. The thing is, it's not that I'm lazy or bad with money. I'm working, usually more than 40 hours a week, and I try to budget carefully. But it feels like the cost of living just keeps racing ahead, and my income is stuck in slow motion behind it. I've learned all the tricks: cooking at home instead of eating out, buying generic brands, skipping outings with friends, putting off replacing worn-out clothes or shoes. But no matter how many corners I cut, it's still never enough. The bills pile up, the savings account stays empty, and the dreams I had for my future slowly fade into a distant echo. There was a time when I believed things would get better. I imagined finishing grad school, landing a decent job, maybe even moving out of this cramped apartment and into a place where I didn't have to listen to the neighbors' loud music at all hours. I dreamed about traveling, buying a car, starting a family someday. But with every passing month, those visions feel more like luxuries I'll never afford. Instead, my focus narrows to surviving day by day. Some days I feel invisible, like I'm trapped in a system designed to keep people like me just barely afloat, always hustling, never rising. It's frustrating and humiliating, like no matter how hard I try, I'm failing at the one thing that feels most essential: taking care of myself. I've started to avoid answering calls from unknown numbers because I'm afraid it might be a debt collector or someone calling to remind me about a payment I missed. That anxiety gnaws at me constantly. I've learned to cope in small ways. When the weight gets too heavy, I take long walks late at night when the city is quiet and the world feels less overwhelming. Sometimes I write in a journal, pouring out the thoughts and fears I'm too embarrassed to say out loud. Music helps too, songs that echo what I'm feeling, that make me feel less alone. And there are moments, rare but precious, when a friend invites me out for coffee or a movie, and for a little while, I can forget about the numbers and the bills and just be with someone who cares. But even with those little reprieves, the pressure never really goes away. The hardest part is feeling like I'm stuck in place while the world moves forward without me. Watching other people buy homes, start families, or save for retirement feels like watching a movie through a window I can't open. I want to be hopeful, I really do. I tell myself that maybe if I keep working hard, something will change: a promotion, a new opportunity, a break. But hope feels fragile, like it might shatter if I look at it too closely. The pandemic hit me hard too, even though I was lucky enough to keep my job. Prices for everything shot up, but my pay stayed the same. Suddenly, every purchase felt like a gamble. Could I afford to pay rent if I bought groceries this week? Should I use my last bit of cash to fill the gas tank or pay the phone bill? The stress was relentless, and it took a toll on my mental health. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about how I'll manage the next month, the next bill, the next unexpected expense. I know I'm not alone in this. So many people my age are stuck in this loop, feeling squeezed by an economy that rewards the wealthy and forgets the rest of us. But that doesn't make it easier. It's hard to talk about because there's a stigma to struggling financially, like it's a personal failure, when really it's a system failure. I wish there was a way to break free from this cycle, to feel like I have control over my life again. Still, I cling to the small things. I've started saving a tiny bit each paycheck, even if it's just $5. It feels like planting a seed that might grow someday. I remind myself that this isn't the end of my story. Maybe I'll go back to school, maybe I'll find a better job, maybe I'll move somewhere with a lower cost of living. Those possibilities keep me going on the hardest days. I guess what I want people to understand is this: living with ongoing financial pressure isn't just about numbers on a bank statement. It's about the constant anxiety that steals your peace, the postponed dreams, the quiet shame, and the feeling that no matter how much you give, it's never quite enough. But even in the midst of that, there's still a spark, a hope that things can change, that I can build a life where I don't feel trapped anymore. For now, I keep going. One day at a time, one paycheck at a time, trying to believe that someday, I'll look back and see this as just a chapter, not the whole story. I never thought I'd be writing about this, about money, or rather the absence of it, in such an intimate way. But here I am, sitting at my small kitchen table, staring at a pile of bills and receipts, trying to piece together how I ended up feeling so cornered by a world that seems to demand more than I can ever give. I'm 27, and yet I often feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water. The weight of ongoing financial pressure crushes my spirit more days than I'd like to admit. It's not a sudden thing. It's slow, insidious. A creeping dread that begins every month when the paycheck lands and immediately starts shrinking in my mind as I scan the usual expenses: rent, utilities, groceries, student loans, transportation. They all rise, inch by painful inch. Meanwhile, my income has been stubbornly stagnant, sometimes dipping when shifts are cut or projects dry up. I work hard, long hours at a job I once thought would be a stepping stone to something better, but hard work doesn't seem to stretch dollars any further anymore. The economic environment feels like a trap. Prices keep climbing faster than I can adjust. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. Every time I think I've saved a little cushion, an unexpected expense punches through: a broken phone, a doctor's visit, or even something small like replacing worn-out shoes. And suddenly, the cushion vanishes. I tell myself this is just a temporary rough patch, but those moments are becoming more frequent, more severe. Some mornings I wake up exhausted, not just physically but emotionally drained. The constant worry about money gnaws at my peace of mind. It's hard to focus at work when your brain is partly calculating how to make the next paycheck last, partly imagining what happens if it doesn't. I often lie awake at night, listening to the hum of the city outside, wondering if I'm the only one who feels so overwhelmed by these invisible pressures. I've become an expert in sacrifices. Simple pleasures are luxuries now. Eating out, once a rare treat, is a distant memory. I clip coupons, track every expense on a spreadsheet, and have learned the art of stretching groceries like an alchemist. I buy second-hand clothes, delay doctor appointments, and skip social events because the cost, both financial and emotional, feels like too much. When friends invite me to dinner or a night out, I smile and say no, even though part of me aches for connection and normalcy. The sense of being trapped is suffocating. It feels like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up just as I'm slowing down. Bills arrive like relentless waves, and my income barely keeps pace with the tide. Every month I tell myself to be patient, to keep grinding, to hope for a better opportunity. But the system seems designed to keep people like me stuck, those who aren't born into wealth, those who rely on a paycheck, those who dare to dream. Speaking of dreams, I've had to put so many on hold. I once wanted to travel, see new places, feel the thrill of the unknown. I wanted to take classes to learn new skills, maybe go back to school. I dreamed of buying a small home one day, decorating it with cozy corners and plants. But each of those dreams now feels like a luxury I can't afford. Instead, I budget just to keep the lights on, the fridge full, and the rent paid on time. It's not just about the money, though. The emotional toll is heavy. I feel a persistent undercurrent of shame, as if I'm failing some unspoken test. Social media doesn't help, scrolling through the polished lives of friends and influencers only magnifies my own struggles. There's a loneliness and financial insecurity that no one talks about, a quiet isolation when you can't afford to participate fully in life, when you constantly say no or avoid invitations. It's a loneliness that settles deep in the chest. Yet, in spite of all this, I cling to hope. Sometimes it feels like a fragile thread, but it's there. I remind myself that this isn't my story's end. I believe that better days exist, even if they feel distant now. I look for small victories, a week where I don't overdraft my account, a day when I resist an impulse buy, a conversation with a friend that lifts my spirits. Those moments are lifelines. I also try to find moments of joy outside of spending money. I've learned to appreciate walks in the park, the quiet comfort of a good book, the healing power of music. I journal to untangle the knot of worries in my mind. And sometimes, I just allow myself to feel the frustration and sadness without judgment, to acknowledge that this is hard, that it's okay not to be okay all the time. Sharing this feels like an act of courage, because admitting vulnerability about money is taboo in many ways. But if my story can remind someone else they're not alone, if it can open a small window of understanding about what financial pressure does to people behind the scenes, then maybe it's worth it. Because beneath the worry and the exhaustion is a person still trying, still dreaming, still hoping for a life where money doesn't dictate every choice or steal every moment of peace. So, here I am, still standing, still breathing, still pushing forward, one day at a time, in a system that often feels designed to hold me back. And maybe that's enough for now. Some days, it feels like I'm just treading water, drowning slowly in a sea of bills, prices, and missed chances. I'm 27, and every morning I wake up with this knot in my stomach that's been growing tighter over the years. It's the same knot that tightens when I check my bank account, open the mail, or even just glance at my phone and see yet another text about rent or utilities. I know I'm not alone in this, but that doesn't make it any easier to bear. I work a full-time job in retail, which pays just enough to cover the basics. But basics have changed. Groceries cost more, gas prices spike without warning, and my phone bill, well, that never seems to shrink. It's as if the world around me is moving forward in fast motion, but my paycheck stays stuck on a treadmill that won't speed up. Every month, it feels like I'm scrambling, juggling expenses, hoping to make it through without overdrawing my account or skipping something important. There's a cold reality behind these numbers. I can't remember the last time I bought something just for fun. No spontaneous coffee runs with friends, no new clothes for myself, no little treats that used to bring me joy. I've become hyper-aware of every dollar I spend. Should I really get takeout tonight, or do I have enough groceries to cook at home? If I take the bus instead of an Uber, will I have the energy to make it to work on time? The decision-making is exhausting, because it's not really a choice anymore, it's survival. Sometimes I catch myself thinking back to what I dreamed of when I was younger. I wanted to travel, to study something I loved, maybe open a small cafe someday. I wanted the freedom to explore and create without feeling like money was always lurking behind my shoulder, whispering threats. Those dreams have faded into the background, buried beneath the weight of making ends meet. The emotional toll is heavier than I expected. On good days, I can push down the anxiety and just focus on getting through my shift or catching up with friends online. But when I'm alone, those feelings bubble up: helplessness, frustration, even shame. I hate admitting it, but sometimes I feel like a failure. Like I should be doing better, earning more, or managing money differently. But then I remember the rising cost of rent, the inflation in the grocery store, the surprise medical bill I had to cover last month. It's like the system is designed to keep people like me trapped. I've learned to cope in small ways. I set up spreadsheets to track every penny, forcing myself to be brutally honest about what I can and cannot afford. I found support groups online where people share advice or just listen when things get rough. I meditate sometimes, even though it's hard to quiet the noise in my head. And I try to remind myself that I'm not alone in this, that lots of people are struggling in different ways. But honestly, some nights I just lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if things will ever get better. Will I ever have the chance to save enough for a security deposit on my own place? To go back to school and study something that lights me up? To finally breathe without the constant fear that a single emergency could wipe me out? The hardest part is feeling stuck, like I'm running in place while the cost of living keeps climbing. I see my friends buying homes, starting families, chasing new opportunities, and I'm here, barely holding it together. It's not just about money. It's about what that money represents: freedom, choice, dignity. I don't want to give up on my dreams, but I've had to put most of them on hold for now. I try to be kind to myself, to celebrate the small victories like paying off a credit card or managing to set aside a few dollars in savings. These wins are tiny, but they're proof that I'm still moving forward, even if the pace is slow. Someday, I hope to break free from this cycle. To build a life where money isn't the first thing I think about every morning. But until then, I'm here, working, worrying, hoping, and trying to hold on to the belief that better days are ahead. Because if I don't believe that, what else is there? This is my story, not just of struggle, but of resilience. And maybe by sharing it, I'll find a little less loneliness in the fight. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.